Anna's really been bothering me, man. I'm not over that. And now she won't talk to me. And that's fine, that's her right. It just makes her a bit.
Cenk kind of like owns the company. It's a pretty big deal when they do something like, I don't know, become incredibly transphobic and start what appears to be a ridiculous right-wing grift. Something that kind of happened.
Oh, shit, I'm cringing. My dick just crawled into my body.
I think Anna Kasparian is genuinely personally transphobic. I'm just gonna say it right now. She's like
Christ.
saying and doing all of the things. They're dangerous and they're ridiculous and like they're straight up evil.
Cenk had a response to this.
Before we do anything else today,
This is probably one of the saddest attempts at like clout chasing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like one of the most shameless attempts. So obviously, Anna has like all of her going on right now in terms of all of the crazy, just everything, I guess. I don't know if their company is going to implode or what the is going on, because they realize that sometimes people are lying about news stories. And so Denims hops up here and she's like, oh, how can I be included in this? And she decides to post a video of Anna like jokingly talking about Hassan's like success from like 2 years ago.
Just Be Anti-Racist says, speaking of mainstream shows, Cenk, Anna, did you know Jimmy Kimmel featured one of Hassan's tweets on last night's show?
I know, everyone loves Hassan. He's super famous and rich. We got it.
That bit just broke out of nowhere.
No, I get it. Like, no, I know, it's super salty. I love Hassan. I'm actually really happy for him. But, like, I also reflect on my own career and feel like a massive failure sometimes. So I don't, like, I don't want that to make you feel bad about yourself. I'm not able to. You think the fucking New Yorker is gonna write a fucking glowing profile about me? Are you fucking kidding me? No, of course not. Of course, like, anyway, I guess I do care a little bit about it.
Yeah, apparently.
Like, oh, yeah. Anyway, like, why the fuck didn't I just play video games? Maybe I...
And now people are running with this where she's like, oh, she's shitting on us. It's like, obviously she's just joking, right? But it seems like Cenk had a massive 180 on his bipartisan position after y'all's meeting. Wait, really? Or wait, what is this?
Bipartisan is not the enemy. Bipartisan is not evil. If you don't have majorities or supermajorities in both your houses, bipartisan is the way you have to go. You know, you mentioned that $15 minimum way that you can get through anything that is going to help the American people if you're not looking to be bipartisan in some way. You brought up the moratorium on students.
Because their other side takes hostages, and we immediately did it. And when you say, hey, isn't bipartisan a good thing? My answer to that is no. Okay, so it depends on what we're agreeing to. I asked them about trans rights. Should they have the same rights? Same exact rights. I'll add one thing that's really important. And we shot a show. I don't know if you guys are ever going to see it. We shot a pilot just this weekend with a mixed Republican and Democratic family. Okay, I asked them about trans rights.
What is this video? Why is the guy's screen like 720p scrolling around on a 1080p?
They have the same rights, same exact rights in housing, employment, etc. Every one of them, including hardcore Trump people, were like, yes, they should have the same exact rights.
Exactly.
When I asked about this topic, every one of them, except one of 6 out of 7, were like, no, not competing against.
Wait, I really like your new philosophy friend, the white guy in the blue room. He mentioned the Dr. K meeting. What's his deal? Never heard of him, but he's got a big following. Oh, the Charlie guy, the Charisma on Command guy.
Sports. Doesn't make sense. Men and women are different, okay? And so whether that's, you know, we can get into the...
He's showing you the date of the video. Okay, why not just zoom out on all of it?
Continue that scientific...
This is like the worst crop I've ever seen in my life.
Debate. But as far as the American people go and politics go, you're gonna lose them. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You're gonna lose them. Oh. Community. Because when you say I don't care about elections, who cares about the Democrats?
What is this video?
Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You're gonna lose them. Oh. Community. Because when you say I don't care about elections, who cares about the Democrats? That isn't the point. The Republicans introduced over 600 bills against the LGBTQ community. That's because of elections, and over 70 of them have already passed. When you say I don't care about winning and I don't care about elections, what you're saying is I'm super selfish.
It's a paid video. I couldn't edit easily in OBS. Oh, you made this.
Leftist activist, and I'd like to build my cloud. But meanwhile, I'm willing to throw trans people and the entire LGBTQ community under the bus, knowing that these bills are going to pass because we're laser focused on a losing issue.
Think strategically about what that means.
Okay, I think that I feel like his rhetoric is a little bit rough against Democrats, but I don't think the Young Turks have ever been like anti-voting. I don't think this is a change in their stance at all.
Alright, so in case it wasn't obvious from the title of this video, I'm done with TYT. Now, before we get into like everything about this isn't about all of the hosts. There are actually a ton of people at TYT that I think are genuinely cool people. This is mostly about Cenk and Anna. But of course, since like they're the people that are like the big names on the network and Cenk kind of like owns the company, it's a pretty big deal when they do something like, I don't know, become incredibly transphobic and start what appears to be a ridiculous right-wing grift. I mean, literally everything.
Incredibly transphobic. I wish that every single buzzword that ever existed was you couldn't use it anymore and you were for Vaush being sexist again. How was your dinner, uwu? It was dinner-tastic.
And to be honest, I agree with a lot of what Vaush says here. Leftists and progressives have absolutely no idea how unnecessarily repellent they come off to so many people, and they get angry at the idea of being a more effective social movement because they don't want to share their social spaces with people who might have gone another way.
Anna Kasparian. Kind of being a Karen here, TBH. I guess that kind of is a substitute for woman in some contexts and get a little sexist. I don't care. It's just Anna's really been bothering me, man. I'm not over that. And now she won't talk to me. And that's fine, that's her right. It just makes her a bitch.
Vaush is my spirit animal. I remember 2013. Halfway through his sentence, like 3 people in chat were typing up why calling her Karen wasn't necessarily sexist. And then he said that, and then they started deleting everything.
Anna's being a low IQ child. All of her progressive activism, its sincerity, and frankly, its like intent is being called into question by the sheer fucking retardation of the shit she's saying right now. It's genuinely baffling. I don't have a logical explanation. I don't think it's financial. I think that we're having an honest to God, you know, I'd say it to anyone else and I'm not going to treat her differently, white woman moment. I think we're having a white woman moment. I think we're having to call the police.
Is she a, what is Anna's background? Is she a white woman? I don't even know. I can't tell between camera, makeup, and everything else. I don't even know. Is she a white woman? Armenian? Does that count as white? I have no idea.
Police in the park because we see a black person, minor in...
I love how Vaush is one of the... I'm so glad I wrote my manifesto. I had that section on him. Vaush is like the prototypical... That means like one of the first like designs of, right? Prototypical. Denoting the first original or typical form. He's like the prototypical person. Well, I mean, people probably did before him. Of the web, right? Anna said something bad. Here are other people that say bad things that are totally unrelated. She's like them, right? Anna gave a take I disagree with. Wow. She's just like the people that call cops on the black people. It's like there's absolutely no relationship other than like this is like categories of people I don't like. It's just like so funny. He does it so flawlessly.
Sincerity and frankly, it's like intent is being called into question by the sheer fucking retardation of the shit she's saying right now. It's genuinely baffling. I don't have a logical explanation. I don't think it's financial. I think that we're having an honest to God, you know, I'd say it to anyone else and I'm not going to treat her differently, white woman moment. I think we're having a white woman moment. I think we're having to call the police in the park because we see a black person.
And so when I opened up about what happened to me in my own neighborhood, what I thought was telling was how everyone, not everyone, but some people accuse me of pushing racist stereotypes. But I had never ever disclosed the race of these 2 individuals, ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they just assumed that these 2 guys were black. They weren't black. They were 2 white guys. But like, I never shared that publicly because I didn't think the race really mattered, right? What actually happened mattered. And I thought the reaction to it by the people who were supposed to allegedly want dignity for everyone reacted to it. Like, that really bothered me.
Minor inconvenience changes your politics. Join the neighborhood watch kind of white woman moment. Soccer mom white woman moment. That's what I think we're having.
I love how people like Vaush think that white people are the master race. A lot of people on the very far left treat white people as though they are Aryan gods. Because when they deal with minorities, Well, for a minority, all of a sudden, a microaggression can be a thing that throws your whole day off. If you're a minority or a trans person, somebody misgendering you might be the end of the world. Somebody asking you where you're really from, if you're Asian, might destroy your entire week. A cop pulling you over to ask you some questions, even though you weren't doing anything wrong, if you're black, is enough to make you hate your country.
Anna is a young Turk.
But if you're white, you should be able to deal with unlimited amounts of online hate, unlimited amounts of people calling you a piece of shit, unlimited amounts of people personally attacking, demeaning your character. If you're white, it's like you have the power to just churn through all sorts of online hate, all sorts of anything that comes your way. If you're white, you have the power to. If you're a minority, you're probably retarded. But if you're white, you should be able to deal with all of this. I love how this is also just like perfectly on show with him.
And a white woman moment, soccer mom, white woman moment. That's what I think we're having. Like that suburban white woman thing where it's like, she's okay with gays, but like if her son's gay, then it's like, whoa, or like okay with black people, but you bring a black guy home, the daughter.
We brought up blacks, gays. How many other things have we tied into this? Just all of this because Anna feels like the left doesn't honestly report on some things. Now she is being compared to homophobic people, being compared to racist people, being compared to a Karen at the park wanting to call the cops because she's a black person.
Whoa, like that. I don't know. Any explanation I try to attach to this is uncharitable.
Okay, we've got a minute left. Do you think we'll get to do you think at some point in here, a minute and a half, will we bring up Nazism, the Weimar Republic, this is what happened in Germany, like...
Because she's being retarded. You might say this one take is retarded rather than Anna herself, Vaush. Well, people are a sum of the things they believe, you know? Like obviously it's fun to say, oh, she's retarded, and it's true. But what I really want is for her to change her mind. I just don't think me being nice would do it. Vaush, you're being kind of mean. No, I'm not. This is like classic white woman syndrome, right? Where like, everyone's progressive about race issues till their daughter brings home a black guy. Then, like, what is this Karen shit? Unironically, like, really, Karen shit. This is a certified white woman moment. Vaush being mean to Anna has only made the problem worse. No, it didn't. Never believe that bullshit, okay? When retards start spewing their shit and everyone calls them out in it, and then they lash and they go, well, one of you was mean, so no. Nah, I never believe that. I call 1 million people retarded. Nobody cares. I call one Anna retarded, and you lose your mind. That's your problem. She does have a history of doing the progressive until it affects her kind of like white woman soccer mom shit. All the drama around Anna Kasparian fades away as long as she shuts the fuck up. I think we've sufficiently demonstrated, as always, that women have no idea what they're talking about.
Dinos literally have one meme and nobody remembers it. Okay, this is this is clearly looped, okay? That was clearly a looped video. That video was clearly looped. Why did TYT hire a genocide-denying tank? I didn't know that anyone comparing Stalin and Hitler to an expert propaganda, literally all the bad things Stalin did, line by line, he's less problematic than FDR. Jesus. A lot of people learned about Holodomor in school. Yeah, a lot of people in former Soviet countries were taught Holocaust denial in school. In former Soviet countries were taught Holocaust denial in school. These are people that ran schools in these new free countries. These are the leaders the U.S. wanted to bring to NATO. There's a reason the UN doesn't recognize Holodomor as a genocide, but the term Holodomor literally was coined by literal Nazis with the aim of trying and reframe Nazi scholars as freedom fighters. My God. So now also China doesn't include the fact that Xi Jinping is more popular than any US president ever been, then you are simply not operating in reality. Okay.
Alright, so in case it wasn't obvious from the title of this video, I'm done with TYT. Now, before we get into like everything about this isn't about all of the hosts. There are actually a ton of people at TYT that I think are genuinely cool people. This is mostly about Cenk and Anna. But of course, since like they're the people that are like the big names on the network and Cenk kind of like owns the company, it's a pretty big deal when they do something like, I don't know, become incredibly transphobic and start what appears to be a ridiculous right-wing grift. I mean, literally everything from the things that they've said about homeless people to the stuff that they said about abolitionists and their general sort of like refusal to hear the—
What did they, can we get receipts on these videos? Why don't we ever have receipts on videos like this?
Someone texted me by accident. Her name is Kelly. She's asking what my name is. Should I tell her I'm a Destiny fan?
Tell her I'm a fan of your mom.
Do I have a chance?
Why can't, like, what did they say that's so horrible about abolitionists or horrible about homeless people? Can we see these, like, receipts?
The people that are criticizing them and saying, no, this is what people are actually trying to say. You're not really hearing what we're saying, or you're not listening. Now, we're not going to focus on literally all of the right-wing things that they've been doing lately, especially in the past year. They've done this pivot where they go after prison abolitionists, people who say defund the police, homeless people, and anybody—
like, what do you mean go after them?
They think is a radical left, because, you know, doing the enlightened centrist thing is really a smart move in this year 2023, right? I still got that calendar right. No, we're mostly gonna be focusing on their
I like how 2023, like, it's so, like, we've advanced so far in progressive politics when, like, the reality is I think progressives have basically given up all their political power in exchange for power on social media. I don't know, unless I'm missing the political efficacy of progressives in Congress.
phobia, which they have been escalating rapidly, which I guess is something that everybody really predicted would happen starting, I think, about 4 months ago, when Anna Kasparian put out a tweet complaining about the use of the term birthing person, which is really, really funny because she kept on talking about how, like, it erases women, and it
also, remember, like, these are people that will tell you that, like, misgendering someone should be illegal, right? That using somebody's correct pronouns is so important, which, by the way, I can agree with, but that it's beyond the pale for a woman to feel a little bit offended being called a birthing person. That, like, how can you grant so much leeway for one side and so little empathy for the other? Destiny, the homeless thing was Anna. She said she didn't want random guys on the street rubbing their cock on her ass. I'm not kidding. Hold on. Wasn't that in response to her actually almost getting sexually assaulted by a homeless person, though? It's not like she was just randomly saying that. Wasn't that in response to an actual incident that happened?
During the pandemic, there was absolutely a crime wave in the country, mostly in, like, major cities. Los Angeles happened to be one of them. And, you know, I talked about how I, you know, was assaulted. Well, actually, let me give you the details again, because there's an element to that story that I've never shared with anyone that also explains where my head's at now. Mm-hmm. So, you know, as I was walking my dog one day, there were these two guys. They appeared to be homeless. They appeared to be on something. They looked like they might be methed out or something because they were kind of acting erratically. But, you know, typically when I come across guys like that, if I ignore them,
they usually fuck off.
They won't do anything.
Right.
That wasn't the case this time around. You know, they're coming toward me, and my dog, Charlie, like, he does his business. And as I bend over to pick up his business, one of them grabs me by my hips and just, like, with an erection and everything, just starts, like, humping me, like, right there, like, broad daylight. And it was terrifying because, like, I didn't have any weapon with me, no taser, no pepper spray, nothing. Mm-hmm. And luckily the guy, he did that, and then he and his friend walk away while they're, like, laughing at me. And I felt so degraded, scared. And, like, the first thing I did is I called my husband, and he came down, and he's like, where are they? And he started looking for them. We couldn't find them. The cops wouldn't come. Like, we actually had an incident in front of our building, like, a few weeks prior to that. That was really scary. We called the police, and
homeless people
wouldn't come.
Sometimes they just don't give
amazing.
a fuck. Yeah.
And now, in retrospect, I realized the reason why is because there was a shortage.
Oh,
and
that's it, probably.
I think that there was, like, an unofficial strike, considering what happened in 2020 and all the protests. So they just wouldn't show up. And I just didn't even think to call the cops because I'm like, what's the point? These guys have already, like, left and they're not going to be able to find them. But anyway, I opened up about that.
Not sure if you finished the Stitch Out video, but Anna got reported to HR for a birthing person tweets.
It minimizes womanhood down to just body parts. Except for it literally doesn't. Everybody very immediately pointed out.
Not sure if you finished the Stitch and end video, but Anna got reported to HR for her birth person tweets and supposedly by this person.
Okay, if you're gonna make a video about why you left something, just say what you left. Why do this song and dance? You give all these dog shit responses to arguments. And you're not even really presenting an argument, honestly, or presenting a counter argument. Like, birthing person, that doesn't reduce somebody down to their body parts. I mean, by definition, it kind of does a little bit, right? A birthing person is just a person who passes a baby through the vagina or I guess the stomach, right? Like, is it? I mean, like, I feel like you kind of have to say something about that because, it, like, on its face, it seems to me like it kind of does. No?
To say that, in fact, thinking that the term woman and birthing person are completely interchangeable actually does reduce women to body parts. And what precipitated this is even more silly because it was originally in reference to AOC and other politicians using the term when they're talking about abortion rights. And I don't know if you know this, but abortion rights are pretty specific to people with uteruses who are capable of having children. And so the term birthing person is a pretty useful term to be narrow enough to be specific.
Literally nobody needs a term this specific. Literally nobody. There has never been a time in the history of all of abortion rights where somebody says, we need to talk about women's rights to abortion. They're like, women's rights to abortion? You mean like women who are past menopause? You mean like trans women? You mean like nobody is confused by this. Nobody is confused by this. Why are you acting like we needed a more specific term?
Also cover all of the relevant people, and that's why politicians have been using it in that context. Since posting the original tweet, literally it seems like they keep going back and forth whenever they hear that argument. Basically, if there's somebody reasonable in the room with them saying why the term birthing person might be used, then they're like, yeah, I guess it makes sense of that context, but I just don't like it. But when somebody reasonable isn't around, then they just go and complain about the term birthing person again. And that really is why so many people predicted that they were gonna go into this extreme turf pipeline.
Extreme turf pipeline?
That's a very common starting point right there. The trans people
Did you hear that there's a push to call veggies as bonus holes? It's a legit thing.
Nice.
There was an article written on this.
But then everything escalated when they decided to talk about trans people in sports, which is a very common thing that a lot of cisgender people like to complain about because they don't understand how hormones work. And instead of attempting to try and get any type of understanding, they just want to sit and argue about their assumptions about how they think hormones should work. They come in with all of these assumptions about biological males and think that there's some sort of magic secret advantage that just exists persistently regardless as to what hormones are literally dictating what your body is doing at the time. And that's where I came in, and I started tweeting at some of the hosts saying that, hey, you're wrong about this, that, or the other thing. You're missing these details. Hey, you are literally just being transphobic right now. I even reached out to people within the network to say like, hey, I would like...
Remember, I mean, like, this is such a pointless guide, and it's so intuitive that I don't think I even have to say this. I think most people would just know it to be true. If having a difference of opinion or even not understanding something makes you something phobic, chances are the person you're talking to is trash. It's actual human trash. They're not trying to convince you of anything. They probably don't understand what they're talking about. And all they're trying to do is get some moral high ground authority on you so that they can like virtue signal their friends. It's such a dog shit argument. Like, you disagree with me? You're ex-phobic. Like, come on. Not to mention this person's takes on trans athletes is probably wrong, just based on the little bit I'm hearing them say right now. They probably don't know the science. They probably don't know what they're talking about, but which is an added level of irony, but
to maybe sit down with Cenk and maybe even have an on-the-air conversation where I could talk about how all of this stuff actually works. You know, I may not be a doctor, but I like to think that in my master's degree in biotechnology and my experience literally being a trans person, who, by the way, most trans people will do a ton of research about hormones before they get on them because a lot of doctors don't really know that much about it. So that's actually something that I did, where I spent a ton of time like reading through like research papers about what would be like the best for my transition, how it would go, and things like that. So I'd like to think with my background, with some experience in biology, and you know, reading a ton about how specifically hormone replacement therapy works for trans women like myself, I might know a thing or two about all of these things. And I figured, hey, if Cenk doesn't know about this, maybe it'd be interesting for him to learn. But with that though, he wasn't really interested in having an on-the-air conversation because, you know, he seemed pretty intent on not changing his mind, but he was open to having a phone conversation. So I handed it to him on that, like, yeah, great. So we had a chat over the phone. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get into the details of literally every single thing that we talked about. I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis, because that's really all that's important. And there are two main sticking points that I really want to talk.
Also, yeah, sorry, I'm blackpilled on degree havers. And I will rely on my intuition here. I can tell when I'm talking to an intelligent, educated person in a field. They never, ever, ever fall back on shit like, this is my degree. Never. Because if you know your shit, you know your shit. And you'll say it. You'll talk about what you know. That's it. Like, it's never like, oh, this is my degree. It's like, oh, okay, well then impress me. Like, educate me. Tell me something, right? It's so cringe to try to like pull academic credentials without citing anything, right? Like, say something then. Say something of value. If you're so smart, if this is your field of expertise, like, then I don't know, like, say something intelligent. You got a master's degree. That's at least, what, 6 years of education? Here's your chance to show it off. Tell us something that we don't know, you know?
Touch on that happened within that phone call that I think were really a sign of like how far things were gonna go, and honestly how much further things might go from here still. The first sticking point was Cenk seemed convinced of this idea that I'm living in some sort of bubble. They've even said it on the air, that people fighting for trans rights are all living in some sort of bubble. The problem with that is I have a lot of random trans people from a ton of different political perspectives that were like,
press X to doubt heavily. This person only hangs out with one other type of person that is the carbon copy of all of their social views and has never been around somebody in a non-combative context where they actually have substantial political disagreement. I can just tell. I know it for a fact to be true. No shot.
Reach out to me about like, hey, how are things going at TYT? Or hey, you're really inspiring. You know, stuff like that. And I also have like a decent circle of friends and family, many of which who are sort of all over the place politically. I told Cenk very specifically, you know, I have friends that are like big Joe Biden fans, right? Like they are theoretically to your political right.
What the
His reaction to that was quite literally laughter, which I just thought was like so hilarious. And he just kind of wouldn't believe. He was like, no, you're in a bubble. You're in a bubble. And I kept pressing. I was like, no, Cenk, you don't understand. I matched with a random person on Tinder, and the first thing that they started talking to me about is how transphobic TYT has been lately.
What? No. Oh, come on. No f***ing shot. What? This is like the most that happened story I've ever heard in my entire life.
Shout out to Suits for the $1.99 troll donation with an unoriginal and unfunny troll comment. More importantly, this video is going to make me sprint into a creeper in Minecraft.
Good job. Thank you for the dono. $50. Thank you, buddy.
Because I think that they had just kind of figured out who I was. And Cenk was like, no, see, you're living in...
Because okay, I'm sorry. I admit, I do live in bubbles, okay? Because I'm a professional video gamer, okay? I barely do this politics shit. Because they figured out who they are. Is this person that popular? They have 10,000 subs on YouTube. They were on the Young Turk. Did they do like a huge segment? Is this like a massively popular person? Like trans people around the country see this person like, oh my God, like... Maybe. I mean, I'm making fun of them. Maybe they are. I'm not sure.
In a bubble. And it's like, yeah, okay, buddy. That completely random person I matched with on Tinder is just part of the bubble that I'm magically living in. But really, that kind of gave me the vibe of like, oh, Cenk really thinks...
Well, I don't understand why this person... Is it she or they or... I don't know what this person was. I'm just gonna say they, them. I also don't know why they think that like matching with somebody on Tinder that agrees with their opinion somehow proves that they don't live in a bubble. Like, what? I mean, like, where are you from? Is it, like, if this person lives like in San Francisco or some shit, or LA or Seattle, and they match with somebody on Tinder that they've already like decided to swipe on, like, how is that evidence of them matching with somebody outside of their bubble? Like, whatever.
That like every trans person is part of some sort of ideology, that we're of like a strict like political viewpoint, and that we don't just exist as like a type of person that exists, you know? It really did seem like Cenk was of the mind that to be transgender is to subscribe to a very specific political viewpoint. Which, I don't know if you know this, but that's actually... Really something that the like most unhinged transphobes are like spewing as conspiracy theories and stuff like that. They're like, these trans rights activists are all part of this strict ideological group and they're infecting people with this radical gender ideology, is literally what like these unhinged right-wingers are saying. But it does kind of seem like Cenk is just kind of in that camp of like, oh, if you're trans, you must by definition be like some sort of radical leftist. You know, clearly like not connecting the dots about people like Caitlyn Jenner or Blair White existing, which honestly was just.
I feel like this person when Cenk is saying that this person is in a bubble. I don't think Cenk means all trans people are in a bubble. He's probably talking very specifically about trans activists. I'm like 99% sure that's probably 99% sure that's almost certainly what Cenk was talking about. Not all trans people, but.
Really, really frustrating to have in that conversation, because the people that are in my circle of friends are people who like literally have been homeless in their lives and people who literally are making like ridiculous amounts of money. I have a pretty broad circle, you know, something that kind of happens sometimes when you're like a polyamorous.
Oh shit, I'm cringing. My just crawled into my body. This person is 22 years old, aren't they? Give me an age. I don't even know. I just made that up. Like, and before this person's actually like 40 years old. If they were 22, I could at least like forgive it because they're like young and stupid, and it's like whatever. But if they're older, this person is just like, oh my god.
And people who literally are making like ridiculous amounts of money. I have a pretty broad circle, you know, something that kind of happens sometimes when you're like a polyamorous trans woman that's like a little bit popular on the internet. It turns out that you can build a pretty wide circle of people from like different perspectives and backgrounds and stuff. I know, what a shocker. But then there's the
My guess is gonna be anybody that would be okay with a polyamorous trans person all probably come from a hyper-specific background. That is probably an incredibly specific background of people that that would be okay with that. Just a guess, I could be wrong, but.
Other part that was like even more disturbing, which was I pointed out something that Anna had said on the air, where I was like, hey, Anna said this bit about doctors giving hormone therapy to children because they were afraid of being called transphobic. And I was very clear. I was like, you know that's not happening, right? Like, you know that isn't happening. And Cenk's response was, you know, I don't know. See, I could see it happening, though. And I'm like, no, but you couldn't. Because, you know, if that actually did happen, that would be medical malpractice, and it would be like a federal case to just give kids hormone replacement therapy because you didn't want to seem transphobic. That's ridiculous. On its face is ridiculous. Anybody who knows anything about politics would know that not only would that be a federal case, but it would be like national headline.
Okay, to be charitable to Cenk, and I don't know if this is happening, but to be charitable to Cenk, no, it wouldn't necessarily be medical malpractice if you couldn't prove it. And the person wouldn't necessarily just say, is this just an event? I don't even know why I'm doing this. It's not like the person would say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna prescribe this to you because I don't wanna be accused of being transphobic. They'd probably feel subtle pressure to do it, and you can diagnose anybody with anything, theoretically, depending on how you account for the symptoms and everything, right? Now, I don't know this. I don't know if there's actually people prescribing medications to people because they don't wanna be transphobic, but like, if it was the case that was happening, it would be a lot more subtle than that, would be my guess, but.
Every single newspaper would turn that into the biggest story for months. I mean, literally, the biggest story transphobes have had for the past 2 months is Dylan Mulvaney being on a can of Budweiser. So do you think that they really wouldn't make it national headlines even if it just happened once? But no, Cenk still doubled down and was like, I don't know, I could see that happening. And it's like, great, we have somebody who is like the head of a news network who is like basing political opinions off of things that he could see happening. Like, what a wonderful position to be in at this point. Like, the real brilliant 5-head political take right there. You know, I could imagine this scenario, and that really says something about society, doesn't it?
Okay.
And that had to be one of the most unhinged parts of that phone call. But whatever. I sent him some research papers about trans people in sports that went into detail pretty clearly about like, hey, there's no evidence that there's any reason to discriminate against trans people in sports. And that was like the conclusion that it came to pretty firmly, right? Hey, there's no evidence that we should discriminate against trans people. What a wild concept. It's amazing. I know. But Cenk apparently has learned the wrong lesson from that, especially when you look at some of the clips from his most recent rant about trans people that he just did the other day regarding trans people in sports and the extreme radical activists that support trans people in sports. Now, let's listen really quick to some of the clips from this rant to see where exactly Cenk is on these issues.
No, the hormone blockers do lower the testosterone, they do even things out a lot, right? But men still have other physical advantages, like we maintain mass much better. And to give you a sense of how unfair this is, that where she won in Canada with 275-pound bench press. I bench press 275. Okay, and that's not a big deal for a guy.
This is so ridiculous. This is literally so ridiculous.
Okay, if you bench 275 as a guy, that is fairly impressive. Now Cenk is a really big dude, so but okay.
Hey, think about this. He's like, oh, this trans woman won a competition where she broke a record bench pressing 275 pounds. And clearly, that's unfair. Because I, a cisgender man, can easily bench press 275 pounds. Therefore, there must be an advantage. And it's like...
Okay, Cenk's argument is not even a real argument, because what Cenk is saying isn't like arguing in yes or like for or against. It's just anecdotal random shit. But this person's not providing a real counter argument either. And I'm a little bit biased against this person because I also know that this person is wrong. Because trans women do maintain their advantages post. As long as you're transitioning past puberty, you absolutely maintain your advantages. And I think there have been several studies that we've gone over in terms of lean muscle mass, in terms of overall training adaptations and advantages, especially if they trained as a male for a while before transitioning, skeletal structure, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this is, so I just know that empirically this person is correct, but.
Like, my guy, she literally broke a record. Like, what are you talking about? She clearly wasn't having, like, an incredibly easy time. You're stumbling so close to the point. Like, Cenk is literally...
Wait, what?
Literally broke a record. Like, what are you talking about? She clearly wasn't having, like, an incredibly easy time. You're stumbling so close to the point. Like, Cenk is literally incapable in this moment of separating trans women from cisgender men in his own brain right here. Like, he is fundamentally refusing to connect the dots that hormones maybe actually have an impact on, I know this is wild, your ability to maintain mass. That maybe perhaps, like, your biological traits are not dictated by some ethereal assignment of gender that you were given at birth, and maybe perhaps...
I also think it's a huge red flag when a person is completely incapable of summarizing the points to their opposition, especially if you claim to work media or debate or whatever the fuck this person claims to do for a job, right? That's clearly, nobody is saying that hormones have no impact, just that hormones can't erase the impact of years and years of exposure to high levels of androgen as a male, right? Like,
are actually dictated by the hormones that are like flowing through your body, telling your body what to do. Like, could he have used a sillier...
Like, do you not think that permanent structures or structures that require building over the time, do these just not exist? Like, do muscles not exist? Is like how strong you are dictated by the current level of like testosterone and free testosterone in your blood? Is that it? Or like, do CNS adaptations not exist? Or do bones not exist? Or do like skeletal structures not exist? Capacity for lungs not exist? Like, it literally is just like if you pump steroids at that particular point in time, that's just determines your total strength. Like,
example, he's trying to say that trans women have an advantage in sports because he personally, as a cisgender man that has never taken estrogen, would be able to beat them all at a bench press competition. This is just on its face ridiculous. But just wait, because it's gonna get worse.
I mean, it's okay, but it's not that big a deal. You're gonna put that in the women's division. I don't care how many hormone blockers you had. It's gonna make a difference, okay? And in the limited cases, they're not like instantly breaking every record like Trump is saying, right? But they're doing better than the average bear.
That's not true. Like, literally show me any statistic that shows that trans women are performing better than average in sports. In fact, that's part of the research that I showed Cenk, that it actually isn't happening. It literally is not happening. There is yet to be a trans woman win at the Olympics, despite the fact that trans women have been allowed at the Olympics for a long time now. Once again, it is almost like Cenk is refusing to take in the information that people are presenting to him and is just making up things in his head and taking that as reality.
And here, I'll add one thing that's really important. And we shot a show, I don't know if you guys are ever gonna see it, we shot a pilot just this weekend with a mixed Republican and Democratic family, okay? I asked them about trans rights, should they have the same rights, same exact rights.
How hormones work. Crazy, I know.
Well, because most of these people don't do research. They just like look up stuff that agrees with them, basically, right?
In housing, employment, etc. Every one of them, including hardcore Trump people, were like, yes, they should have the same exact rights.
Exactly.
When I asked about this topic, every one of them, except one, 6 out of 7, were like, no, not competing in sports. Doesn't make sense. Men and women are different, okay? And so whether that's, we can get into the, continue that scientific debate, but as far as the American people go and politics go, you're gonna lose them. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You're gonna lose them.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We should adjust all of our political opinions based off of what's popular and what's unpopular, right? Because here's the thing, Cenk. You personally, as somebody that works in the news, have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to actually inform people with the facts and not worry about like, oh, how are they gonna worry about like what I'm saying? No, you just have to like give people the facts. And that as somebody who is working in media, you do actually have an influence over people's opinions. But it's playing this game of, oh, I want to sound and seem really smart, regardless as to whether that or not something is actually true.
I like how Cenk can't possibly have motivations here, where he was like genuinely confused about some stuff, did more research, and then feels like the opinions that he was led to before to believe weren't as true as he thought, right? That can't possibly be the case. Instead, it must just be that he's grifting, he wants to sound smart, he's being a contrarian. Like, how much of a record do you need for people to trust you? Haven't the Young Turks been the largest...
WYT chat face red droopy eyes.
Isn't the Young Turks like the largest left-leaning media for like on YouTube for like a decade? Longer? How long have these guys been in media? Like now in 2023, they decide to grift? Like, how does that even make sense?
And so I'm gonna say something that's not true, just because it's a big smart brain thing to say. I think discriminating against trans people is okay as a smart galaxy brain strategic move, because we gotta win over all of these people who just don't understand yet. Like, can we stop doing this? Can we stop playing this game of like, I really want to look smart, so I'm afraid of saying something that is literally true? Or like standing up for what is just morally correct? I mean, quite literally, if you don't have enough evidence, why do you think the default should be discrimination? Explain this. Why is the default discrimination? And heaven forbid we stand up for people and say, no, trans people should just be allowed to play in sports. That's good, actually. That's fine. There's no evidence to suggest that we should discriminate against trans people because of some sort of biological advantage, because of course, that's like a silly, nonsensical idea. And also, wild concept, women with PCOS have a ton of advantages in sports. Are we gonna discriminate against them too? Right, once again, this is a failure to understand that.
Why would you compare PCOS with exogenous hormones? People with PCOS have a ton of downsides too. I don't even know if, with all the other random shit going on in your body, I don't even know if you could necessarily capitalize on the advantages of maybe depressed estrogen or fucked up hormone production or whatever. Like, what's PCOS? It stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's like a whole host of like really shitty side effects that can happen. That even the cysts aren't necessarily even the worst part of it. But there's like, it's a ton of like. You can go read on your own, because I don't feel like doing this. But yeah, it's not a fun time. I don't know why you would compare PCOS to taking exogenous hormones. That's a statement that only somebody who's lived their life as a biological man could say. I don't think somebody that's lived their life as a biological woman would ever come out and say PCOS gives you huge advantages in athletics. That's a wildly fucking stupid statement to make. Holy shit. It kind of reminds me of when, this also feels shitty, but what was this? It reminds me of that panel that I was on like 4 years ago with a whole bunch of trans people, and they were arguing that like periods didn't matter much, or it didn't really have a big impact on you, or it wasn't a big deal when it comes to training or whatever.
Let's go to Dylan, getting their muscles Dylan Blight, and then we'll go
wait, why do you say after you're getting your muscles fucked? Imagine being a woman and having your muscles fucked your whole life. That's what being a woman is.
I want to talk now. It's
Mate, have you ever taken this shit? You ever taken this? It does stuff.
Hold on. I'm sorry, not to be transphobic. Hold on. I'm sorry, but like.
Go ahead, no, finish your point, Destiny. Shut up.
Like, if you're a trans woman, you don't have periods. There's a whole lot of stuff that you don't have to deal with that women that actually compete and train and condition do have to deal with. Imagine being a man and just slitting your wrist once a month and just bloodletting yourself in order to and then doing that and still training. There are going to be a lot of conditions that are revolving around women that are special to their training that aren't going to revolve around men. And when you say, well, when you take hormones, you're your muscles over for a year, that means you got to train with advanced muscles for like 20 years, depending on when you transition. It's the worst argument ever.
And if you take a look at the average trans woman after 2 years of hormones, it is the case that almost every single biological advantage that Destiny's talking about is completely gone. I have no idea what data you're using to get the idea, Destiny, that there's this massive biological advantage in like trans women after 2 years of hormones. Because if you look at you mentioned periods earlier, I don't know why you think it's the case that like a cis woman athlete or something would have to not work out when she's on her period. There's no medical reason whatsoever for this. I think you just made that up.
I just hate my life.
So
that was the most male fucking thing you've ever said in your entire life. Bro, people miss weigh-ins in their fucking MMA classes because they have a period and it ruins their shit. Talk to a woman at one point in your entire life and ask them how that might affect it can affect schooling, it can affect training. It can
oh my god, I don't disagree. It doesn't affect schooling. Dude, you can work out when you're on your period. What are you talking about?
Working out when you're pushing yourself, when your sleep has to be perfect, when your diet has to be perfect, when your protein has to be perfect, and you just lose a ton of blood and your hormones are going crazy, that can your training. Like when you were training, I wish I could remember this. I remember being on this panel, and of course it was all cis men and then all trans women, and I felt like I was taking crazy pills. Holy shit. Was that a year and a half ago? Okay, that might have been 4 years ago. Destiny, everybody I've ever met with PCOS was also very overweight. PCOS can so many different things in your body. You can get horrible acne, tons of body hair, lots of horrible periods, tons of spotting, irregular bleeding. I think more extreme complications can include the cysts. I think can explode and kill you. I think you can become infertile or develop infertility. Like PCOS is a whole bunch of like horrible shit. And then I think some people can have minor PCOS where you just have like irritating. But like I said, go Google on it. But I'm sorry. What a wildly stupid thing to say.
Idea. And also, wild concept, women with PCOS have a ton of advantages in sports. Are we going to discriminate against them too? Right? Once again, this is a failure to understand that trans people are just a type of person, right? This is thinking that transness is something extra, which is another vibe that I got with Cenk over the phone. Feeling that it seemed like he thought that transitioning and being trans was like this extra special thing that people did for fun or to make a political...
It's literally extra. Exogenous means outside of the body. You're introducing hormones to the body from an outside source. Of course, it's literally something special. Now, there's no moral judgment there. It doesn't make it necessarily right or wrong. But of course, it's something, it's by definition, it's something extra. Like, what the fuck?
Statement and not just literally part of like who trans people are. Once again, this is just a failure to understand transness as just a type of person that exists. And the idea of, oh, you're just losing the average person, I could win over Republicans on like the housing and all these other things, is just absurd on its face. Because Cenk, are people just gonna vote for a Republican because they're very angry that there's a trans person playing sports ball? Come on.
People absolutely will vote based on social issues they feel strongly about. Yeah, of course. People absolutely do that. Bro, I don't want the fucking weirdo horse. God damn it. I don't want the bloody gross. Holy shit. Tons of people gifting on YouTube. Kendrick, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Stinkfist69, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. Gaston, thanks for the 20 gifted subs. Why are you all gifting memberships on YouTube right now? Thank you. Oh yeah, that's true too. I wouldn't say as much because I just don't know, but I would wonder if people with PCOS could even play strenuous sports because of the risk of popping a cyst or something. That's true. I don't even know if you'd be able to do that. But did you fix the power issue? I rebalanced my circuits. We'll see what happens.
Be real. Be real. Especially because, and this is another thing that I pointed out to Cenk, if you look at the states where Republicans made their entire campaign just attacking trans people in sports, you know what happened when Democrats actually stood in defense of trans people? Oh yeah, that's right. The Republicans lost miserably. Nobody is thinking about this. People are not like just like struggling to fall asleep at night. Oh my god, oh I can't even believe trans people are playing sports. What am I gonna do? Nobody's doing that. There's a tiny group of people who are obsessed with trans people that are like going on a tirade, but that's not the majority. If you look at Michigan, in Michigan, the Republicans made their entire campaign just like, we hate trans people. And what happened now? Oh, the Democrats have a trifecta in Michigan now. And every state where Republicans have tried to focus on just attacking trans people, it has literally undermined their own support. So what is happening right here seems to be very clearly Cenk hiding behind hypothetical people's opinions in order to mask his own opinion. He doesn't think that trans people should be allowed to play professional sports. And instead of just saying that, which I guess on some level he does, he hides behind, oh, you know, the American people aren't ready for trans people to play sports, you know? But it gets even worse because he basically follows this up by blaming trans athletes and anybody who dares to just support trans people existing for all of the transphobic legislation that is passing across the country and for Republicans winning.
That is incredibly selfish of activists who are betraying their own community. Because when you say I don't care about elections, who cares about the Democrats? That isn't the point. The Republicans introduced over 600 bills against the LGBTQ community. That's because of elections. And over 70 of them have already passed. When you say I don't care about winning and I don't care about elections, what you're saying is I'm super selfish leftist activist and I'd like to build my clout. But meanwhile, I'm willing to throw trans people and the entire LGBTQ community under the bus, knowing that these bills are gonna pass because we're laser focused on a losing issue.
And he's like, oh, if Republicans win because the trans people want to play sports, it'll be all your fault. And like, how disgusting is that actually? You are genuinely gonna blame people whose existence is like actively being criminalized by Republicans for their own oppression? Give me a break. This is actually your fault more than it is any trans person's fault. Cenk, personally you, it is more his fault. Because what Cenk is doing is Cenk is going to an audience of people who are presumably on the left and telling them, no, it's okay to be transphobic. It's okay to compromise with the rights of trans people. It's okay to say that we should just discriminate against trans people in some ways if it makes these Republicans happy. And like, that is unbelievably disgusting. It's such a shameless thing to do. Like, how on God's green earth do you think that you get to call yourself some sort of like principled leftist who's out to do the right thing? How can you call yourself the home of progressives when you are actively cutting deals with fascists about the rights of trans people and then spreading transphobic nonsense to an audience of like millions of people? It is deeply irresponsible and fundamentally it's pathetic. This is genuinely embarrassing. The degree to which this is irresponsible just knows no bounds, because there are so many people that are literally looking to people like Cenk for opinions, and he's literally just giving them an open invitation to be as transphobic as they want to be, because it's politically strategic.
They'll say that, but okay, you don't care about the politics? Let's just, for once in your life, think strategically about what that means. That means that you're gonna continue pushing the Democratic Party to unequivocally support everything that the trans activists want, even if it's unpopular among the electorate. That means they're not getting reelected. That means they're gonna lose to Republicans. Republican lawmakers who are passing draconian, disgusting legislation in various states right now as we speak against the transgender community.
Look at this. You're gonna push your Democratic Party to unequivocally support everything the trans activists want. Like, shut up. Literally, shut the f up. This is so embarrassing. Like, Kasparian, and like, look, I'm gonna be real. This is my personal opinion, but whatever. I think Anna Kasparian is genuinely personally transphobic. I'm just gonna say it right now. She's like saying and doing all of the things. She's referring to every trans person as a trans rights activist. Referencing every trans person as a trans rights activist is just
wait, has she even said that?
Literally transphobic.
Did I miss that
and
part?
It's one of the things that transphobes have been pushing for a long time is just calling every trans person a trans rights activist. I mean, and the media more broadly does this as well. And this whole idea of like, you're gonna lose the Republicans, you're gonna lose the Republicans if you cater to these trans people, once again, is entirely debunked. Most people are fine with trans people, and when Republicans make their entire platform about attacking trans people, it actually does undermine their political success. We just live in a country that is very much not a democracy, that has all this gerrymandering and all these other things, and so Republicans still have like seats in a lot of places. I know, wild concept. But genuinely, if you look at their poll numbers in response to them focusing on just trans people existing, it's not working. It is genuinely not working for them, it is undermining their electoral success. But of course, you can't not take the opportunity to blame trans people for their own oppression, am I right? It's really great that Anna Kasparian is doing this.
And by the way, you schmucks, you're falling exactly into the right-wing trap. The Republicans, they tried everything. They tried anti-gay stuff, it didn't work. They tried trans bathrooms, you remember that? That didn't work. Kicking the transgender community out of the military, that didn't work. They drilled in until they finally found a little tiny nugget of like, hey, trans folks in like competitive sports seems a little bit much. And you don't engage them in that fight. They lose on everything else. But idiot activists, yes, I just called you an idiot. Activists go in there and go, no, I'm gonna fall right into that trap and I'm gonna fight on the only losing ground we have so we can elect more Republicans so they can pass more anti-LGBT laws. Great, well played. I'm sure your clout and your brand is doing great.
My God.
These clips are just so infuriating, genuinely. Like that talk about betrayal is just so like pathetic and embarrassing and shameless. Coming from Cenk and Anna right here. Like, oh, you're betraying the trans community by fighting for trans rights. How dare you just say that trans people should be treated equally in society? Don't you know that you're supposed to live as second-class citizens so that I can feel better about myself when I give you rights? Literally spare me. This is ridiculous.
Literally.
But I think the real icing on the cake here is this tweet where Anna Kasparian has decided to unilaterally declare Jesse Singal to not be a transphobe, despite, and this is what's really wild, Jesse Singal literally talking to whistleblowers at a medical facility that appear to have made some significant HIPAA violations about their patients in sharing the information that they did with Jesse Singal. And of course, you have.
Wait, hold on. None of that makes him a transphobe, though. He's a transphobe because he talked to journalists that maybe violated HIPAA. What part of that makes him transphobic? What? Hello?
Of him running around spewing all of the same transphobic nonsense that basically your average transphobe is gonna be spreading. You know, the types of things about like, oh, we don't know about hormones and oh, HRT for kids and oh my God, it's so terrifying. Oh my goodness, they're turning all of our kids transgender. Oh my God.
Single is a good faith, I think, critical thinker. I'm subscribed to Blocked and Reported. I have listened to endless podcast episodes from Blocked and Reported. I haven't seen anything from Jesse Singal that communicates to me that he is a transphobe, that he is a bad person. He did straight news reporting on basically what, you know, some of the risks could be when it comes to transitioning literal kids with puberty blockers and then cross-sex hormones. And through his reporting, which I'm very sad to say I didn't really come across until this year, I learned that I was wrong about a bunch of other things.
Like, Jesse Singal literally is one of the, like, more notable transphobic people that is out there putting out misinformation about trans people and actively stoking the flames of this big wave of anti-trans legislation. And it's just deeply shameless to come in and say, no, I definitely think, as a cisgender woman, think that Jesse Singal is not transphobic at all. So, yeah, it's good. It's fine. Trust me. And then, of course, she starts talking about, like, oh, puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones for children. I think the important thing to understand here, and this is a line that I've, like, continuously told people and, like, said on TYT myself, that like really what it boils down to is hormone replacement therapy is literally just puberty. Like at the end of the day, it's just puberty. And yeah, whether it's puberty with estrogen or testosterone, it's gonna carry some risks just like it does with cisgender children. That's just part of puberty. And it's actually not all that different if it's a trans puberty or a cis puberty, believe it or not. And so anybody fear-mongering about the effects are permanent, yeah, that's kind of the whole point, isn't it? You know? Isn't that like the whole point? But if the effects were really entirely permanent, then transitioning as an adult wouldn't really work, would it? And yet, of course, it does. And you know, it's funny because their biggest fear for what happens to children who are on hormone therapy is that a cisgender child might accidentally get gender dysphoria. You know, the thing that trans children just deal with if they're not allowed to get hormones. And so literally, this is just a nonsense argument of throwing all trans people under a bus out of the hypothetical fear that a cisgender person might take hormones and just realize that it's not for them. Which at that point, by the way, they could just stop taking hormones. And so really when you take all this together, it seems like Anna Kasparian is fully engulfed into like the conspiracy theories against trans people. And I genuinely think that she believes a lot more than what she's saying, because I've just seen hints of like just some like extremely rabid transphobic nonsense.
Wow.
And with Cenk seems to be following Anna Kasparian along and kind of seems to be of the vibe of like, oh no, I'm this big smart news guy and I've been doing this for a long time. I couldn't possibly be wrong, and very much relying on his lack of any type of understanding of biology and just making ridiculous assumptions about the difference between men and women and thinking that that's some sort of like universally applicable thing, not thinking about how hormones play a role in that, and of course is bouncing off of Anna's deeply transphobic energy. And of course he can't help himself but frame himself as like the brilliant galaxy brain reasonable person. And of course all these trans people are just ridiculous and out there and just radical. And couldn't possibly be, you know, referencing like very basic science that is easy to go through.
Very basic
science. And any
science.
attempts to educate either Anna Kasparian or Cenk has kind of just been met with a lot of stubbornness, of digging in their heels, rejecting the new information, and replacing it with their own imaginations about how they think things should be. And it just continues to escalate over the past several months. And that fundamentally is why I just can't be a part of TYT anymore. It's just too much.
So rather than remain on a network and provide what you consider to be an important voice for trans rights or trans issues, you're gonna leave and fade away into irrelevancy, because that is exactly what this person is going to do. Nobody will know this person's name 6 months from now. Nobody will know this person's name probably 3 months from now. My guess, their trajectory, as we've seen so many times before, they're going to go to a different thing. They're going to start like a new cool trans network YouTube channel. They're going to have 1,000 views on their first video with everybody celebrating. Maybe they'll open up a Patreon. A few weeks in, the viewership will dip. 2 months later, they'll make a tweet saying, hey guys, like this has been really slow and rough. We don't know what's going on. And then 6 months later, literally nobody knows who the people are. I mean, like, just from an entertainment point of view, this person is incredibly boring to watch. But Jesus.
Ridiculous, because at a certain point it becomes embarrassing for me. Because how can I, as a trans person who actually knows the science behind this, who actually is like actively trying to support trans people, as somebody that people look up to me, right? People literally like send me messages and be like, I'm so inspired, you know, you being a TYT, like it made me want to come out, or like my kids watch your show and you know, it just like, it gives them so much hope and they're so excited to see a trans person.
And now they're not going to see you ever again.
Messages from them now asking about, hey, what's going on with TYT? Hey, what the hell is happening here? Like, why is Anna saying this? Why is Cenk saying this? And that is just like the amount of like psychic damage that I have to take every single day dealing with not only the transphobic nonsense of the Republicans, but also whatever Cenk and Anna are on right now. It's just too much. And I just, because at a certain point,
the whistleblower from that story that talked to Jesse Single, Jamie Reed, is married to a trans man. All patient info from the story were redacted and journalists aren't subject to HIPAA.
Oh, I mean, technically, yeah, I was gonna say, I think journalists can repost it anyway. Hey,
Mr. Bonnell, I appreciate you. Thank you for being you.
I could be wrong, and somebody can go and check, but I think for a HIPAA oof, careful what I'm saying here. Go read this. But for a HIPAA violation to actually be a violation, I think you have to provide like pretty specific, uniquely identifying information. So for instance, I think, also if you're a physician, you take my word for it and then you get fired or lose your license, this is your fault. But like, if you're a physician and you want to present a conference or you want to talk to somebody, a patient, I think you could say something like, oh yeah, like I had a patient once that presented with a heart problem, and we tried this medication and unfortunately it didn't work because they were a smoker or whatever. Like if you're somewhat vague, like you're not giving personal details, like that's totally fine. Like I'm pretty sure what I just said there, I don't think that would count as a HIPAA violation. Now, if you were to say I had a patient, her name was Margie, like you give like her name or something, or the patient that came in last week that was scheduled for a 9 a.m. meeting, I think that is not okay, because you can personally identify the person. But I think if you just give like some of the facts about the case, I don't believe that's a HIPAA violation. So I don't even know if a HIPAA violation took place, but I also don't know exactly what they're referencing because I haven't heard the exact story. So if there are names and stuff or personally identifying information involved, there probably is. But otherwise, yeah.
That I'm like endorsing their views, and I cannot. I will not. I refuse to lend any support to those views whatsoever, because fundamentally they're dangerous and they're ridiculous and like they're straight up evil. It is just this shameless, selfish ignorance that is fueling this, and just this self-importance coming from both Cenk and Anna, this idea that they don't actually have to listen. So no, yeah, I'm done with TYT because I can't let anybody think that I have any type of support for their opinions here, because they're just ridiculous. And it's just gotta be too much for me to deal with all of this nonsense. And the last thing I want is for them to be able to say, oh no, it's fine, we have like a transgender host, so it's all good actually. Because no, it's not all good actually. It is in fact quite bad.
Jesus Christ. Did Destiny talk about her biotech degree giving any expertise? No, I don't think a biotech degree would even give her any expertise or insight into the subject. Although theoretically peripheral classes and stuff could, but then in that case, that should just give you the ability to communicate it better, not just appeal to your degree. Wait, somebody said Cenk had a response to this?
Before we do anything else today, I wanted to take a minute out to talk to you guys about what kind of show and network we are, because apparently that some people are questioning it. And so I have clear answers, and then people can make their decisions based on that, okay? So we've been doing this for 21 years, and the entire time we've been progressive and fighting very hard for progressive issues and done a lot of things.
Wait, hold on. Show the ancient statue that you keep the traditions. What is the tradition? It's gonna be some stupid emote, isn't it? Is it pray? Thank you. Is there a pray one?
I need help.
It's yes. Wait, is yes even an emote? Oh, no.
Yes.
Good job.
I'm not going to get into our resume of all the great things that mainly our audience has done, because without them, we don't have any power. And those folks have done amazing things in the world, like launch Just Democrats, etc. So we're not going to pop out of a cake in a couple of days and go, ta-da, right-wing pivot. We laid a 21-year bear trap for you guys,
yeah,
so that at the end we can do a right-wing pivot and then lose our entire audience. The people are like, oh, you guys are grifters. You are denying your audience what you want, what they want. Wait, how would that be a grift? You guys want to go from an incredibly successful progressive show that gets hundreds of millions of views every month to being right-wingers to get no views. If that was true, why would that be a grift? That's not a grift, that's just a disastrous decision.
True.
No, we're doing something radical on this network. And so I want you to understand it. We're allowing for discussion and debate and disagreements. Now, a lot of people don't want that. Like tons of right-wingers go, no, I don't want any of that. I just want Fox News or Newsmax or Tucker Carlson or whoever it is. And I just want him to say the things that I want to hear. And in fact, Fox News got in trouble with them in the Dominion lawsuit because you see the internal emails. Let's not tell people things that are true. Let's just tell the audience what they want to hear. Now, I was proud that the left wing didn't do that for a long, long time. We are open-minded, we're reasonable, we have conversations. But unfortunately, at this point, there are some forces that say no. There should be no discussion. There is a correct opinion, and everyone should be forced to have that correct opinion. Or they should be canceled or fired, or no one should watch them, or all these other consequences that flow from that. Well, God bless. You know, there's really good news, because there's tons of leftist shows now that never disagree with a preset so-called leftist ideology. They agree with 100% of the issues 100% of the time, and they almost all do it, right? You sure they're honest with you that they agree with the whatever is the trend of the day 100% of the time? By the way, they could prove me wrong. They could say, oh yeah, I don't agree with the left on this, and this, and see, nobody canceled me, everybody's fine. Now they're gonna do try benign things like, oh yeah, well I like orange more than I like yellow. No. Give me real disagreements. You're not gonna do it, are you? Because you're worried.
Ooh.
Well, we are gonna do it on this network.
Ooh.
So we do things like, hey, I do something that is almost unheard of in media. I hire people who disagree with me. And so some have disagreed on the right, some have disagreed on the left, and then they have come out and not only disagree with me massively on our air, and I'm totally okay with it. Totally okay with it. And then they will sometimes go over the edge and say vicious and crazy things, and we're still okay with it. And then and then you guys know that recently someone who we liked and really supported, etc., decided to call me an evil person, a racist, a transphobe, pathetic, embarrassing, all these terrible, terrible, terrible things. And then they quit. And after they quit, they say, I quit because this guy who runs the company won't agree with me. But sister, I platformed you. I said, here's a platform, go for it. And not only can you say anything you want, you can say something that totally and utterly disagrees with me. Not good enough. Is that a standard? That everyone has to agree with just one of the hosts? Well, if that's the standard and two hosts disagree, what am I gonna do? Well, I'm for, apparently the new standard is everyone must agree. So who do I fire? Which of the two hosts that disagree do I fire? Do I go to Twitter and ask the left-wing activists or the ones pretending to be activists for our side? Okay, guys, since apparently no one voted, but apparently you guys are the arbiters of what's on the left, despite the fact that the polling shows that you are not. You are often very, very, very wrong. I'll give you the classic example, Latinx. I was told 100 times, oh, you are being against, you're going against the Latino community. It's like, I don't think so. I've never seen a Latino person call themselves Latinx. I think you made that up. They're like, how dare you, right? And it turns out we did a poll, or we didn't do it, somebody did. 96% of Latinos don't want to be called Latinx. Did anyone learn from that? That maybe randos online don't actually know what they're talking about, and that they don't actually speak for that community? But even if they did, or we were wrong, etc., the most important thing is, will we have disagreement and will that be allowed? And the answer definitively on the Young Turks is yes. And if you don't like that, like I said, there's a billion options, right wing, left wing, and they'll tell you whatever you want to hear. But if you want to have a real conversation, an honest conversation, there's one place in media. And by the way, it doesn't matter if people yell at me. I've been through it 100 times. Everyone here knows we've been through it 100 times, right? And every time, oh, Jimmy Dore is right. Oh, Sam Harris is right. And then later, oops. Yeah, they're totally wrong. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard is, oops, Young Turks were right again. Oops. But do they learn anything from that? No. And do I change how we conduct things because of the pressure? No. I do not give in to the pressure, but I also do not go in the other direction. Oh, you hurt my feelings. So from now on, I'm going to be against gay rights or trans rights. No, we will not do that under any circumstance. No, I'm still gonna support trans community. I'm still gonna support gay rights 100%. I'm gonna support both those communities 100%. And as you'll see, likely be the toughest and strongest fighter for them. I don't care if some trans people or anyone in any leftist community yells at me. You think I'm gonna like betray Latinos because somebody's telling me that I'm against Latinos because I said I don't believe that Latinx is the proper term? I'm never gonna do that. No, I'm gonna fight for Latinos. I'm gonna fight for African Americans. I'm gonna fight for all of these communities. And you might have seen online, oh, here's a tweet there. Here's a video, like a 5-second clip or a 12-second clip over there. Okay, oh my God, oh, I hear they're right-wingers now, okay? And then you know what happens when people come watch the show? They're like, wait, I don't get it. They don't look anything like what I heard. They sound really progressive. My God, they seem like they're really fighting for us. You know why? Because we've been doing it for 21 years. Okay, and that's exactly what we are, and we're not gonna change it. So, look, the last things I'll say is that we have given a number of folks from all the different communities a platform here when no one else did. And so We hired a number of trans hosts. I don't see a lot of other left-wing shows hiring tons of trans hosts. So, okay, good, God bless. And then we have a disagreement. And then did I kick them out? No, I said, okay, continue to have a disagreement. And they said, no, because not everyone at the company agrees with me.
Yeah.
You guys are transphobes, racist, etc. And how dare you disagree? That's it, we're out. And if you're in that camp and you say, hey, 5% disagreement, too much. I can't handle it. I need something else. Again, all the power in the world to you. But I'm telling you right now, I'm not saying to you guys, oh, please stay. And I'm not saying, oh, go, I don't care. And are there people with good intent in our audience who believe in these issues and disagree with me fervently out of good intent? Absolutely.
Wait,
brothers, I'm not telling you to go or stay.
Is Irrelevant or Darius still alive?
If you're comfortable with disagreement, but we want to get to the same place, great, stay. If you say, no, I want something else, that's okay. I'm just being clear with you guys as to what we think. And so, last thing I'll add is, some people are convinced that they're political geniuses, and they like to lean into fighting on the wrong grounds, right? And they say, oh, politics doesn't matter. Well, here's how it matters. When you lose elections, they pass 70 laws against the LGBTQ community. You want to win elections so they don't pass bills against you. Instead, we pass bills that give you 100% the same rights, not more rights, not less rights, the same exact rights as every US citizen. And by the way, we get paid family leave, higher minimum wage, fight climate change, and all the wonderful things we want in the world. So if you say politics doesn't matter, then you're in the wrong business, okay? You're not understanding. If you say, hey, the maximalist position, so let's not use words like radical, extreme, etc. Let's just say the maximalist position. I think everybody would agree that people that are in the activist community are going for the maximalist position. If you say the maximalist position, whether it's right wing or left wing, always gets you victories, sorry, you don't know politics. That's just not true. It's not remotely true. And so, the American people agree with us anyway on, let's say, for example, one of the disagreements that I have on the issue.
Destiny, one of my female friends is being harassed by the owner of a private business she works for, no HR department, very influential person in a small town. She's asking what to say to get him to stop. Any ideas? Bro, I don't know. That's incredibly vague. I have no idea what she should say there. I don't know. I don't tell her to write the mayor. I don't know if she's influential, no.
Issue of trans people in sports. I think that, by the way, the American people don't agree with me either.
Destiny,
70%.
One of my female friends is being harassed by the owner of a private business she works for. No HR department. Very influential person in this small town. She's asking what to say to get him to stop. Any ideas?
I mean, if the guy is sexually harassing her, tell her to start flirting back with the dude. Flirt back with the guy for a week or two. Maybe go out to dinner with him if you want. Progress the relationship until they're texting each other. Get him to shoot a couple of dick pics over to her, and then blackmail him or extort him. Tell him, hey, now that I've got your dick pics, I'm gonna post these on Facebook and destroy your life unless you leave me the fuck alone. Boom. There you go. You're welcome. Give me $100 if it works.
That trans people should not participate in any sports that is not in the sex that they were born, right? Well, I think they should participate in high school, and I think we could win that argument. And I think that the way you win that argument is to say, look, Republicans, which of you perverts is gonna go do the genital check on these kids? And you know what that happens? Then the average American goes, whoa, yeah, that's not right. I don't want them doing that to the kids. Hey, let the kids play the sports, okay? But if you go into the teeth of the only ground that the LGBTQ community loses on, we win on everything else, right? We win on trans rights, gay marriage, equality in housing, discrimination, etc. They tried the trans bathroom thing, it didn't work. They tried trying to kick transgender people out of the military, it didn't work. We won on all these grounds. And the Republicans dug in and dug in and dug in, and they found one thing that 7 out of 10 Americans agree with them and not us on, and that's trans sports. So my opinion is, let them play in high school, but when it comes to a professional league, let the league decide. If you think that is 100% disagreement, and that's trans erasure, etc., okay, we disagree. And that means, in my opinion, you're saying, I won't tolerate 1% disagreement, 2%, 5%, whatever number you want to put on. I won't tolerate it. I want a show that agrees with me all the time on everything, okay? Okay, well, there's nothing I could do again. But if you say, hey, you know what? I want to win, and I want to frame things in the right way so we protect our community.
Please don't.
And I'm
do
going to
that.
try to protect that community, whether the activists agree or not. And this is not about trans issues in specific. It's about all of those communities. So look, I think the police in this country need massive, colossal reform. But if you go with the slogan of defund the police, you get killed in the elections. You do. Well, I don't like that we lose in the, well, I don't like it either. So we should have better framing. I don't want to do better framing. I want to be maximalist. Okay, but you're not going to win that way. And if you say, hey, I don't like it. I don't like that you are saying things that are nearly indisputably correct on the politics of it. And I don't like that the country doesn't agree with us. And I don't like the idea of trying to convince them. I just want to call them transphobes,
I am for 1 minute and 10
racist.
seconds.
I want to
Then
call
this is
them
done.
names. And I think that's a brilliant political strategy because that's going to win them over. Sorry, but you're wrong. It doesn't win them over. Being able to empathize and say, you don't want to do that to kids. You don't want to do that to other human beings that are just like you. Telling them, hey guys, you have anybody who's trans in your life? And even if you don't, imagine that you feel you were born a different way. And then you have the courage to come out. And you have the courage to change and transition. And that is so incredibly hard. Can you not have empathy for that person? Can you not say, oh my God, that's another human being. And maybe I should root for them instead of rooting against them. That's how you reach out to people and win them over. So we win on all of those issues, we win on all those policies, and we win on the elections, and we get bills that help your life instead of hurting your life. But if you disagree for the billionth time, that's okay. This is a network where there is discussion and disagreement. And that is super clear, and it is never going to change.
Oh, I think Cenk has some bad positions on things, but I respect him. Good for you, buddy.